I was in my Girl Scout troop in Eloy, Arizona, and we were talking about environmental issues and, how we were responsible to make sure that the earth continued for future generations. And one day I said to my mother, I'm very concerned about the environment, and these kids, are really tearing up these historical caves, on a state park, and I'm very upset. She looks at me very calmly and says, well, Ana Maria, what are you going to do about that? And I said, well, somebody's got to pass a law that safeguards these things. She goes, and who does that? And I'm like, well, I guess lawyers write laws. And she goes, well, I guess I'm going to become a lawyer. I went back to that little library and I said to the librarian, how do I become an attorney? I'm like 12. What do I know? And she gave me a book. Well, this is what you have to do. And I read, and I came back home. I said, Ma, it takes years to become an attorney. She's like, well, you better get started. That led to an almost 25-year career in public service, serving kids, families, older adults, individuals in crisis situations. First of all, I had this amazing mentor when I first got to Washington. He was my boss, and he taught me, even if you're a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper you can be, because people notice excellence. People are always wanting to surround themselves with people who are really into what they're doing, do their best at what they're doing. And so he's like, don't put labels on people. Don't feel that your voice is not as important just because of your title. It takes everybody. My dad was the same way. He said, Anna, treat everybody with respect. Whether they're opening the door for you or that the president of a company, we all wake up every day and we put our pants on one leg at a time, and you never know what's happening behind the scenes with that individual. Have kindness and empathy. And so that is how I'm wired. I'm always thinking about, from other people's perspective, how are my comments impacting them, right? How do I involve people who may not feel that they have the right, pedigree or educational symbols behind their name? And it has nothing to do with that. It's more about people's experience and ability to understand that they should have an opportunity to share their voice and perspective. And because I've spent my entire career representing organizations, fighting and advocating for equality, I truly understand what happens when you have diverse voices and thinking around a decision-making table. I am very clear that I was born and raised as Ana María Chavez, and it's always been that way. But my entire career, even to today, even yesterday, somebody introduced me as Ana Marie. Now, I don't know how many Latinas you've met named Ana Marie, but I'm always having to introduce myself and pronounce my name. I take a lot of time trying to understand how people pronounce their names because, it might be something I've never seen before, but that's a way that I show respect to that person's culture or identity. Inclusion is allowing people to be who they are and not judging them for that. I think where people sometimes do an okay job, they don't go all the way with inclusion, is they think, well, if I can just read a book or be sensitive to these issues, then people are going to feel included. You've got to go more than halfway and understand that there have been a history of experiences that people have felt that have created sometimes apprehensions about entering certain situations. And for companies who are trying to get ahead of their competitors, they need people to innovate every day. And if they're in a customer-facing role, they need to feel empowered that they can make decisions right there and right then. When that customer walks up to them and says, I have an issue I want to solve, they should feel empowered to innovate around that solution. So for me, again, that all goes back to the culture of inclusion. Regardless of your role in an organization, whether you're, at the front desk of a dealership or you're in the back end, fixing a tranny, you should feel that you have the ability to raise your red flag and say, what, I think we could do this better. I don't think you can have inclusion without respecting people. It goes hand in hand. You can't say that you're including people but not respect their differences. Inclusion means respect and knowledge. And I think there's a misperception that as long as you say we're going to include everybody, that's actually not the way you approach it. You have to understand that the way you engage in diversity issues in particular, and how you combine that with knowledge of a situation, provides the ability to include different perspectives. We have to ensure that people understand the power of diversity and how that's connected to knowledge around issues, and that ultimately it will provide the inclusion of those thoughts around the solutions of very complicated issues in society.